Any minute, money, mo. Any minute, money. Any minute. Any minute, money. Any minute, money, mo. Catch a rapper with the flow.
Hey,
If he holler, let him go. Any
hey,
minute, money, mo.
whoa, whoa,
Any minute,
get it,
money.
hey.
Any minute. It's the intro, baby.
Hi, this is Zap, and welcome to the Reset and Zap podcast. Welcome to the Reset and Zap podcast on this fine new week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's me, your girl, Zap. And as always, is my perfect other half over there looking so fine.
Hey, everybody, what's up? It's your boy TeeJay.
You really on your bullcrap this season 4.
You know, I got a new thing for every season. So.
It's always something new.
Yeah.
So this is your new thing? That's what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, pretty much.
You're going to keep people speculating. Have people just speculating on how you're going to open the show.
Yeah.
Well, guys, welcome. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Season 4, baby. The longest season you're ever going to have. That's for sure. Because, we're not only starting this with a banger, but we're starting this and ending it eventually with 24 episodes.
24 episodes. Hope y'all ready for that.
It's a pretty lengthy season, but here at the Reset and Zap podcast, it's all about resetting and being in the right mindset for a brand new week.
Oh, snap.
We talk about all sorts of things.
Like what?
Work-life balance, parenthood,
Oh, yeah.
gaming, drama.
You best believe.
And really whatever we want to talk about. So
yeah, because this is our show and we can do whatever we want.
we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And you tune in to listen to it and support it. So so thank you.
There you go.
Thank you for supporting our shenanigans. It's pretty cool.
I like it.
So today we decided to switch things up.
Switch it up.
And I decided to let TeeJay over here take the lead for this episode. I have no idea what we're about to talk about. I can finally place myself in the shoes of TeeJay over here and see how it feels when you're just tagging along for the ride and you have no idea what we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So my reactions are going to be genuine.
All right, let's get it then. Today's episode is going to be a very introspective one.
Okay.
And it's a topic that we've sort of kind of talked about in our private day-to-day lives.
Okay.
But we're gonna bring this one to the podcast. And I think it's gonna be very interesting. So, and how we're gonna do this is we're gonna go back and forth. So there's gonna be a little discussion on both ends. But today's topic is
drum roll.
How has getting older changed the way you feel about certain things?
Oh boy.
So you're going to choose 3 things that in your beautiful aged state
Okay.
have changed about you over time.
Wow.
And to give you an example,
Yes, please.
I'll start it off, but you're going to have to do 3 of these. And we're going to talk about each one, and then we'll keep going back and forth until we're done.
Okay.
All right, so
All right.
for an example, my number 1 is the way that I see the future. So, to break that down even further, when I was younger, I never really thought about the future. I always thought about living in the moment, everything right now. Didn't think about where I wanted to be, where I wanted to go, where I wanted to live. Just kind of just coasting by on life, just kind of just living in everyday moments. But as I've gotten older, I realized that I have goals now. I have dreams. I have things I want to obtain. And getting older has made me realize that you can't always, even though I still do it, you can't always just live in the moment. You can't always just, at some point you have to mature and realize that you want more out of life than just trying to figure it out in the moment.
I see.
So getting older has changed the way that I looked at the future. Because now I have goals. Now that I have a son and a family, and I want to be able to be there for my kids. So like another example of that is how I treat my health. Like, because normally I would just do whatever, eat whatever, live however, whatever, drink, smoke, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Not thinking about how that would affect my longevity. But now that I look at the future differently, I want to be able to be there when my son graduates from high school. Or I want to be there when he has his first date and he goes to his first prom. And I want to be there and not only be there, but be aware and be healthy and be able to partake in those things with him. So being, I'll say it, being 40 years old.
Okay.
Because I know I look good for 40. I probably didn't know I was 40 years
The
old.
big old 40.
I know that I'm getting a little older. And I want to be able to be active in my son's life. He's we got a young baby. He's just turning 1 year old.
Very active
And
little boy.
I want to be able to keep up with him and experience the things of life that he's experiencing with him. So that changes the way I look at the future. So now I change the way that I diet and the way that I eat and trying to exercise more and live a more active lifestyle. So that's one way that growing older has changed the way I looked at something, and in this particular case, how I looked at the future.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah. I told you this is going to be a deep. I told you be prepared to think. Because this is going to be a deep one. I mean, you can talk about my subject before you go to yours, but how did you feel about those thoughts I just dropped on you?
I mean, I completely agree with you. I think we're both on the same train when it comes to taking full charge, on our health and taking care of ourselves, being more present, being more involved, in our children's lives, but not only, proactively participating in our children's life, but participating in ours as well, taking care of ourselves. It sounds very cliche when people used to say, like, you have to fill up your cup, before you can pour, into others' cups, but it's true. You have to take care of yourself first, because if you run on an empty battery, you're never going to be able to give your best to your family.
Yeah. I've actually said this to my friends several times before, and they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I have some friends who are really want to help other people and really want to be there for other people, but then they neglect themselves in the process. Yeah. And what I tell them is, if you really want to help other people, first you got to help yourself.
Yes.
You can't help other people if you're destroyed and distraught and all messed up inside. How are you going to help anybody in that state? So first you got to get yourself right. And once you get yourself right and you're in a good place, then you'll actually be able to help other people, because you'll have that energy, you'll have that output to be able to do something. But if you're constantly putting everything else first and you're destroying yourself, how are you really going to help people in that state?
Yeah, which is what I love about this podcast, because it's called Reset for a reason, and having to do a hard reset multiple times in your life to get yourself on to the right path.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Whatever that path is, of course,
Yeah.
So for me, it's been I was gonna say quite the opposite, but not really. I think we're on the same line when it comes to this, and it is in being more present. For me, it's being more present. I think that over the years, I've learned to not be so stressed out about minor things. I think us as wives and as moms, those who we are, in a happy family setting, we tend to want to always do the best, and by doing the best, we overload ourselves with so many unnecessary burdens, and always worrying about making everyone around us happy and setting, the right environment so the ones that we love can thrive and grow. But by doing so, we tend to neglect ourselves. So I've learned to be more present, and that might mean learning to, which I kind of really do like now, that I think that's the advantage of having a teenager, but the simpleness of learning to delegate stuff. Because in the past, I used to do everything on my own, clean the house on my own every day, cook, do multiple meals a day, try to take care of my kid, try to be the most excellent wife ever. And then it felt more like a to-do list, and it was coming from a place of fear of abandonment, fear of people leaving me because I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't putting my best effort, and I was doing my best at that time. I was just going through a different season, you know. And I was watching a video not too long ago about a mom that was, her kids are grown, they're adults now, but she was like giving advice to the younger moms and explaining to them like, hey, it's okay if the only thing you can do in a day is take care of your kid, because the first 2 years of your child's life is going to slow you down, and you're going to have to understand that you're not going to be able to do much, because those first 2 years are so important.
Oh yeah.
You're shaping your child's life, teaching them basic needs and stuff, and just really being involved in their life 24/7. So you gotta learn to slow down and be okay with that change. So that's what I mean by being more present. Of course, I'm using an example of that I can identify as, because we have a child, like you explained, that's turning 1 year old. And yes, he takes a lot of my time, and I've had to slow down drastically to be there and be more present with him. But I'm also coming from a place where I've had to learn to slow down even with myself.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I started adopting, and I don't want to say too long on this topic, but because we're gonna be here forever.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
I've started learning to adopt more hobbies. I've started to learn, most importantly, not to treat my hobbies as a to-do list or business. Like, not everything has to have an end goal or a purpose. I mean, the end goal and purpose could be simply relaxing. Just the end goal is to decompress and relax. That might be it. And I got to learn to be okay with it. So
Go ahead, girl.
that's where I'm at right now. But I used to be, I even treated can we just point out this?
Go for it.
And I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I can't say everybody treats it that way.
Chef it up.
But I even treated my social media back in the day as a to-do list. I'm like, oh, this is one more thing I have to do every day. I got it. My job is another thing. And I had seen it as like a bunch of things I have to do. And then towards the end of the day, I'm like really upset. I'm just really, really upset. And nowadays, I've learned to be like, okay, do I have time to reach out to a family member? No, I don't. Hey, the phone works both ways.
Facts.
Have them reach out to me.
Facts.
If they're like, hey, why haven't you reached out to me? You haven't called me in a minute. You haven't texted me in a minute. I have a baby.
Yeah.
And this baby takes a lot of my time. So if you put yourself in my shoes, you're going to understand where I'm coming from and what I got currently going on. But my biggest problem in the past is I always had to place myself in everybody else's shoes, and nobody else would place themselves in my shoes to understand what I was going through.
Yeah, that's a very, very true thing. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people, we've talked about this before on a previous episode of the podcast, where a little selfishness is okay. Like, people take the term selfishness to always mean something negative, but sometimes you do need to take time for yourself. Sometimes you need to look out for yourself first, because not necessarily, especially in the day and age that we live in now, not everybody's necessarily going to think about you and what you got going on and what's going on in your world. So if you don't handle your business, who else is? Who's going to raise
Facts.
Leon besides us?
Facts. Who's going to raise them as well as we are doing currently?
And who's going to do it at all? Just
part.
raising him in general. Nobody else is going to take him, and we doing this on our own. We don't have friends and family here to help us with him.
Yeah.
We are doing this on our own. So we have to look out for our own sometimes. Sometimes I have to make sure that you look out for yourself. Sometimes you got to make sure I look out for me. If we don't handle our family unit, who else is going to do it?
Facts.
So sometimes we do have to be a little selfish to say, hey, I love y'all and I love my family and I love my friends, but right now my family needs me. My unit needs me. My wife needs me. My sons need me. Like, I have to focus on making sure that my unit is good before I can even think about anybody else right now. Because my responsibility as a husband is to make sure that my family's financial, spiritual, emotional future and growth is obtained.
Yes.
So yeah.
Facts.
Okay. Let's keep
I
this
think that's a good way to start it, actually.
Yeah.
I feel good.
So you see how this is going?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to pick up from here, and this is actually going to get interesting because, like I said, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be one particular topic. So I'm gonna move from my number two is
Okay.
the kind of music that I make.
Ah.
Growing older has changed the way that I look at making music and the way that I write. Like when I was growing up, when I was younger, I kind of made more music that was more geared to the lifestyle that I was living at the time. So you'll see more like party music,
Yeah.
a little more arrogance, a
Understanding.
little more like just like everything was just about dancing and partying and just kind of like getting you to move and because I grew up in that 80s 90s era where that was like a really big thing, like that party music,
Yes.
the club scenes, the dance
You were
tracks,
the life of the party.
yeah, so you'll notice that some of my older music kind of focuses more around those kind of themes. And it wasn't really, and even beyond what I wrote about, even how I wrote. Because back then I was just, when I use my gaming references, for example, I would just reference stuff just to reference stuff. To not even, it doesn't even necessarily fit the theme of the song or what I'm trying to say, but I would just want it to fit in as many references as possible. Because the more references is the better, you know?
You thought it sounded cool.
Yeah, in my opinion, and for that time it was fine. Not saying that that music wasn't good, but it was just a different kind of style for me. And a lot of that music also wasn't really indicative of me. You know, it was more so just something that I thought everybody could relate to. You know what I'm saying? Something these just these big overall topics that I know, love lost and relationships and depression. It's like everything was kind of more generic feeling so that everybody could get involved and everybody could like
But
relate
you were
to what I'm saying.
disconnected.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily specific to me.
Nah, I see.
And as I've gotten older, I feel like now I write more. Well, first of all, I write more introspective tracks. Like I find myself writing more stuff about my life and my story and making that relatable to
I
other people.
see.
And also, like I said, the subject matter. Now instead of the kind of party, live your life kind of stuff, I write more stuff about being a husband and being a father and like more stuff that is closer to my heart. And
I
the
see.
life that I'm currently living. Like now, I feel like my music kind of paints a picture of who I am as a person and my stances, what I believe in, and how I move. Whereas back then, my music was more just, like I said, more generic and just like, hey, dance to this, move to this, you know what I'm saying? And I find myself wanting to share more of myself with people so they can get a real idea of who I am. And
Yes.
through that, they can relate to that part of me and say, oh, if he can do this, so can I. So stuff like All About You is more like more me. It's literally All About You is literally my story. Literally my story of how we met and how things changed and how we grew and how we got to where we are now. Kind of like Our Love Journey. Your
Our love
album.
journey, yeah.
And like my next project that I'm working on, which I'm not going to go into detail, but this is probably going to be my most introspective project ever, where I touch things that most people probably don't even know about me or didn't even realize I was going through.
Yeah.
So like I find as I get older, I get more deep. I get more deep in looking in at myself when I create my music because even trying to write the way that I used to write just doesn't, I don't feel that inspiration to do that. I don't get the same joy and energy out of it that I used to at that age. But now, as I'm older, I find that what gives me inspiration is being able to talk about my life, talk about being a father, being a husband, being whatever I am in this moment to more so reach a different kind of audience. And I feel like my audience has also changed as well. Because
see.
the people that used to listen to this stuff don't necessarily listen to this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's like, I think a big part of why that is, like I said, just getting older, becoming more mature. But I think also a part of it is just not wanting to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. Wanting to grow with my music as well, I don't want to be 40 years old rapping about going to the club. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, cause that's not real. That's not, I don't do that no more, But that was a big one for me. It's just how I write my music, what I write about, and the type of subjects that I'm willing to touch on in my music has changed as I've gotten older.
That's beautifully said. I see. I always picture your music to be almost like an invitation for people to step not only on stage with you, but now go to the background. you know, like step in your own background, like go to the back to the cabin, you know, where we get ourselves ready for the show.
Yeah.
So now they're
The
seeing
backstage.
the backstage, and like having that VIP access to see everything that's going on before the show starts. That's kind of how it looks. It's almost like I like to compare it almost to like a blank canvas, and you're like painting your life, but through music, for people to hear.
I think that's pretty much been a process I've developed over time, you know? Like I said, it's like as I've like at first I really didn't talk about myself at all. And even when you remember initially, I didn't even like being in front of the camera too much and blah 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 blah. But as I've grown into this more, I've shown more and more and more of myself. And as that's happened, I've grown and changed as a person.
I guess my question to this, because I was meaning to ask you, is do you think it's not only changed the way you create music, but as a consumer of it too?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the stuff that I used to listen to, I can't listen to as much anymore. I definitely find myself, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I find myself listening to less music overall. But there's different reasons for that. One is I don't like to listen to too much music, especially when I'm in the creative mode, because I don't want to unintentionally be influenced by somebody else.
I see.
Because I have done that. Like I consume so much music that over time, certain habits I've grown in my own music that I've taken from other people.
Yes.
And I don't like to have outside influences affect how I write or how I do certain things. So I find myself listening to less music, of which I know people probably like, that's crazy that you make music and you don't listen to a lot. I really don't, because I like for my music to be more indicative of me.
Yeah.
And I don't want outside influences to accidentally
unadulterated. Like you don't want it. You don't want anybody else to
subconsciously influence me.
Yes.
Because it's not even something that I do like on purpose. Like a perfect example that I've always tell people, and people are always surprised when they hear this, but I used to be I still am a big fan of the Migos. And I love the way that they used to do their ad libs, and like the way they put so much emphasis on their ad libs, and that has influenced me. So now I find myself not even intentionally doing ad libs in that style. And even though it does fit me, and I found a way to kind of manipulate it into my own style, it did influence me. And I kind of want more. This is going
into a different topic that we would need to leave for a different episode for sure, because there's a topic going on there.
There's a lot there. There's a lot to swallow there. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back to you.
Yeah, it's a lot to dissect.
Yeah,
of course.
So let's go.
Okay. So number 2 for me is and I'm still working through this. Okay, so I'm not even there yet, but I think that with the podcast I've gotten better. But I used to struggle a lot with anxiety, and I'm still struggling with anxiety, because I don't think I've ever I don't think you're ever going to be 100% there, but the fact that I'm acknowledging it nowadays is a huge step forward. So back in the day, you know, I used to, like, explain to you, I was a person pleaser. Okay, let's just say it how it is. And also, because I'm very goal oriented, I tend to squeeze in an entire month of activities or errands or to-do list in my mind. And I lived anxious, because if I did not get all of these things done before the end of the month, I felt like I wasn't being productive. I just felt like I was not accomplishing anything. I was not moving forward in life, and that my goals were not going to come true because it was my fault, you know?
Yeah.
But I've come into terms with myself to therefore understand that there are things outside of me that I have no control over, and that I have to be okay with not having control over those things. And that's where my anxiety kicks in, because I know that some days I understand and I'm okay with it, but there's days that it does get to me.
Understandable.
There's days that it does get to me, because I'm like, man, all I really said, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I've learned to slow down. So from doing 10 things a day, I'll try to assign 1-2 things a day because I've learned to delegate, now. So that's really improved the process of me avoiding falling into this stage where I'm just like anxious. I just have anxiety, panic attacks, basically. But nowadays, I've had to also teach myself that if I don't get that 1 or 2 things done, for the day, that I also have to be okay with it. Because then, how do I explain it? It's so hard for me to explain because even that's giving me anxiety as I speak about it right now. Literally, I'm trying to express it.
Deep breath.
So what's going on is I get that 1 or 2 things set. And because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it has to be doable. Like, it got to be done. Like, it has to be done. Like, there's no reason for me to not have it done in a day. But then I don't get to do it. And I'm like, wow, you really can't do anything. That's how I start talking to myself. I'm like, should we not do anything? How about that? Should we not do anything so you're not anxious about anything? I'm letting you see a little bit what happens
in the mind of Zap.
In the mind of Zap, exactly. So I've had to teach myself why. Instead of accusing myself and talking down to myself because I did not get this 1 or 2 things done throughout the day, I have to stop myself and ask myself, okay, why didn't you get it done? And then as soon as I have the answer to this, I find myself giving myself a little bit of more grace because I understand there was a reason. Like sometimes I want to clean the whole house, but I got a job and I got a baby and I got a teenager and I got all these things happening in one day.
And a husband.
And a husband. Yeah. So I don't get to clean the house. And I'd be very mad. But then I have to ask myself, why? So once I explain to myself what I got in a day going on, I'd be like, okay, what did you do? Okay, well, I delegated these things to my teenager. I didn't do it, but my teenager did it. Was it done? Yes. So why are you stressing out? I'm like, okay. Yeah, you didn't get to do laundry, but was your baby fed?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, you didn't get to exercise. Maybe you didn't accomplish that goal that you wanted to go outside. But are you calm? Are you collective? Did you get through a day of work without stressing out, without complaining, without arguing? Cool. So like learning to find ways to celebrate the things I have been able to achieve.
You got to give yourself grace.
Yes, and I think that's where I'm going with it. That I tend to be very hard on myself, and that's why I said I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Just being real with y'all. But I've gotten a lot better over the years, and I think that it really it comes down to just maturing and getting older and understanding that you're a human being, and that human beings are allowed to make mistakes and learn.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I don't even know if this made any sense.
Perfect sense.
But
I think it's something that
that's where it's at.
I think it's something that we all go through as people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's going to be very, very relatable to a lot of people, because I feel like a lot of people are. I feel we are the most hard on ourselves than we are on anybody else.
Yes.
I feel like we are quick to judge ourselves before we judge other people, for the most part. And I feel like that we have to learn to give ourselves grace. We have to learn to understand that not everything has to be perfect. Not everything. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes. Sometimes we're going to miss out on a day of workout. Sometimes we might not necessarily eat the healthiest foods. Sometimes, like I tell you this all the time, because you be like, oh, you eat one bad thing and you're like, oh God, I'm probably going to gain 5 pounds. I ate one cookie. I gained 15,000 pounds now because I ate one cookie. I'm like, babe, it's one cookie. You ate one chocolate chip cookie. You're not going to gain 15 pounds because you ate one chocolate cookie in 6 months. Like, calm down. Like, it's not that deep. Like, I feel like sometimes we I can't think of the right word, but
Yes.
we overstate things or overfeel things.
Yeah.
It's like, just calm down. Like, one mistake is not going to ruin your entire life.
And also, I think this. I just had a ooh aha moment.
Let's get it.
I think this is coming from mainly, and I'm not trying to blame my parents for this, but I think this is coming from how I was raised.
Yeah.
Because me being the older sister, I had a lot more pressure to be there for my brother. I had to raise my brother. I had to take care of him. I had to look out for the house because my mom was out. She was working long hours, so I had to clean. I had to cook. I had to basically step into my mom's shoes to fill in for a lot of stuff because she was out, you know. And then on top of that, making sure I would be the best daughter, that I had good grades at school, that, you know, I didn't want my parents to feel like I was a failure, you know, because I had to live up to my dad's name. My dad was a really well-known, still is a well-known musician all over the world. So I was like, yo, I have some big shoes I gotta fill in, yo, because my dad is out there killing it. So can I live up to my dad's expectations? And that had an influence till this day. Yeah.
Girl, you fine. Sorry. Oh, no, yeah, that wasn't. All right. Let's do this then. We're moving into the final round. Fight. Oh, so I'm gonna pick it up here. My number 3 is something that has changed as I've gotten older. I came up with the subject, and now I gotta think about this a little deeply.
Yeah, it's
this is
you try to go not as deep, but it's
it's a very simple question, but it can go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things to think about and a lot of things to think about just in general. But if I had to pick one, because I got a couple in my head, so I'm just gonna grab one. Let's see. Any, meeny, miny, mo.
I got one, and mine isn't as deep. If you need more time to think.
Any minute, miny.
Here we go.
Any minute, miny. That new song coming to y'all soon. Any, miny, mo. It's coming.
Thanks to Leon.
And,
It's the Leon Playhouse.
Yeah, Leon Playhouse album coming soon. But the one thing that has changed as I've gotten older is the types of games that I play.
Oh.
I feel like when I was younger, I had a very one-track mindset. It was all RPGs every day, all day. That's all I like. RPGs.
Stuck in your own ways.
Yeah. But as I've gotten older, I've grown appreciation for other genres of games. And in particular, 2 genres have really stood out to me in the last couple of years.
What is that?
One is story games. Like more story-driven narrative games.
Really? Because I feel like that shouldn't have changed that much because you played Zelda and boy does.
Yeah, but when I say
story-driven?
story-driven, more narrative games, I'm talking more stuff like one I played recently actually is Expedition 33.
Ah, okay, I see.
More of those deep intellectual, really deep thought out story type games, or kind of like the like Life is Strange series.
Yes.
Or
man, I want to play that.
Yeah. As Dusk Falls?
As Dusk Falls.
As Dusk Falls. Stuff like I find those kind of games a lot more intriguing. What was the one I played with the girl from Louisiana?
Midnight South or South Midnight.
South of Midnight or something like that.
Yeah.
And those kind of games that really go into deeper subjects and tough, hard, real subjects. Like those kind of games. Like that game deals with life and death and racism and it's all acceptance and depression and
Okay,
murder.
I have a question for you. Do you think you're more drawn to these type of games because you're at a place where you feel more comfortable in confronting yourself with these questions, asking yourself these questions now?
In a way, I feel like my maturity definitely helps with that.
Okay.
But for me, it's more so how can I explain this? For me, it's more so that when I was younger, I've played games like that when I was younger, but it always was That's just, like I was more so into games just for the pure fun of it. Like I just want to play. I just want to shoot some stuff, and I want to hit some stuff with my sword, and I just want to beat up stuff, and just
Because
it
it's
was
fun.
yeah.
You're just
I
going at
never
it for
really
fun.
was like that crazy about lore and story and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like as I've gotten older, I found myself more interested in the lore and the story and the world building and all that kind of stuff. Like so now I see those things and now I'm like, oh, I wonder why like that is that way, or
I see.
how would I have reacted in this situation?
Mm.
I'm more willing to look at myself as a gamer and as a person than I was back then, you know?
Okay.
So I feel like that is what opened me up to those kind of things. Because like I said, some of the games that I've played in the past probably had those kind of themes and stuff in it, but I was just too busy shooting and killing stuff to really even think about it.
Yes.
But like now at my age, I'm more willing to receive that kind of information than I was when I was younger.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it does.
And the second genre, which is kind of a genre within a genre, but cozy games. I was never a cozy gamer.
Which we have an
before.
episode.
Yeah, we do have an episode where we talk about some of the best cozy games to go play and the ones to look out for in the future. But I was never a cozy gamer before. I had never played Animal Crossing, or my first foray into cozy gaming was actually Stardew Valley. I saw somebody online playing it, and I was just, this looks very interesting. And I saw them in the dungeons and killing shit. I was like, oh, this is a cozy game that also has like combat and other elements and farming and all this other stuff in it. So I started playing Stardew Valley, and then I started getting more interested in those kind of games.
Yeah.
And then you introduced me to Animal Crossing. So I really got into that really heavy,
Yeah.
and now it's like Hello Kitty and all these other games. But when I was younger, like I always saw those kind of games. I was like, what do you do in these games? Like, what's the point?
And it's usually how everybody thinks about it, really, when you think about it.
Especially games like when I first saw Animal Crossing as a kid, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm playing a game to do chores.
That was 1,000 stars, same reaction until one day for Spookathon. Remember, we did the whole event live, and then he was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
That was his reaction.
Yeah, because when you're a kid, you just think that, oh, you're supposed to be jumping and killing and shooting and doing this. Like, there's got to be like an objective and something to do in the game for it to be fun. But sometimes just decorating your island can be fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes just running around trying to find this very specific item that you want, or crafting this and making that.
Or like we did for Spookathon, we did a whole costume contest
event and all that. Sometimes sometimes you want a game to just sit back and relax and just chill out and be cool. And I don't think as younger me would have ever gotten into games like that. So I feel like, like I said, as I've gotten older, the kinds of games that I'm willing to play, and I'm more open to try different things. That's actually just in general. I feel like as I've gotten older, I'm more open to different kind of things in general. Like as I've gotten older, I'm more open to like going to museums and going to operas.
Yes.
And having picnics.
I remember the first time I took you to all these things, you were like,
I've never done this before.
I've never done this. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because I take it for granted. But exposing somebody else that was like,
yep, never been to an opera, never been to a play. I mean, I've been to museums, but I never really was interested in going to museums until now, and going to plays and going to operas and going to the park and just taking walks and just getting in the car and just driving somewhere and just looking at it, going to a place we've never been before and just checking it out. Like I'm more open to those kind of things now as I've gotten older. Instead of, the younger stuff that we've done, running around with our friends and doing this and that. I'm more open to more calm and cool and, more in-depth things. Like I've gotten into reading now as I've gotten older. Like I've never was a big book reader, but now we should do an episode about books.
Yes, we should. That would be so much fun.
Do like our reading suggestions.
I think people would be
tell
very
people
much
about
surprised.
the stuff we've been reading and stuff like that.
That would be so dope.
That would be dope.
I have to add it on my list.
Yeah, got sidetracked.
Okay.
But the types of games that I've played have changed as I've gotten older, and just like what I'm open to in general has changed as I've gotten older. So I'm gonna pass it over to you. Take us home.
I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't think of a third one until probably a couple of minutes ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's super simple. and it's about me being, it follows the same line as yours, is being more open to explore and accept things for what they are. And it's not only in a philosophical plane, but just like overall everyday life. So, like you mentioned, being able to be more open to do things that even if I don't fully comprehend or understand what's the purpose or how do you even do it, I'm still willing to give it a try. So, going to as simple as the Japanese market and seeing what type of foods they consume and trying out, things that we wouldn't have been able to try out. Like we've discovered so many cool bakeries and spots that are now our favorite go-to spots, which I'm really thinking about one right now that's been
Of course you're thinking
kind
about
of bugging
food right
me,
now. Of course you're gonna end this episode talking about food. This ain't chef's kiss, but go ahead.
But then also like being more comfortable and doing more family related activities, like going something as simple as going to the water park used to give me anxiety, y'all. I was anxious all the time because I'm still learning how to swim. So that's mainly what it is. I just got a fear of drowning. But just like being more comfortable about going to a water park with my family, and just things along the lines like that. Just even something as simple as like sitting in bed and not doing anything. Can I feel comfortable of just not doing anything? And now I do. I've learned to enjoy. But then recently, like I mentioned to you, on a in a going more philosophical, I've been more understanding of other people's opinions and views in life.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
It was a very hard conversation to have, which I'm not going to go into details. But just being more accepting to hear other people out and understand where they're coming from and seeing where I stand. How do I feel about these topics? And it was very insightful because I feel like I've grown a lot.
Oh yeah.
I have been less restrictive. I've kind of escaped my own mental jail. And I've learned things about myself by simply exposing myself to those different environments. And we've always joked about that, about me being a witch. But, because
she is.
Because he says I'm a witch. But
she is.
I think I've been more in tune with who I am and even like my weird parts, and just
the magical parts,
and magical parts, of course. But it's been really fun because the more in tune I am with myself and being more accepting of those areas, the more I realize, like, my creator made me pretty dope. That's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
So I don't know if that even made sense, but yeah, just being more willing to enjoy and be more accepting of those things.
Oh yeah. Didn't I tell you this episode was gonna get deep?
Yeah,
I like this. We gotta do this again where I get to just attack you with stuff without you
actually
knowing.
pretty recently, there's a perfect example to this. We did a pop-up stream for Fantasy Life. And if you notice, like usually when we do live streams, we'll schedule them in advance. We have a whole campaign, like we have plenty of time to let people know. We got a plan. This time we just did it last minute. And you're like, yo, are you in the mood of streaming? Yes. Do you want to play this game? Cool. Do we want to do it live with the people? Yes. All right, let's do it. And if you notice, our energy was at its peak. We were giving the best of ourselves
100%.
Because we wanted to do it.
Yeah, and it was a game that we truly, truly enjoyed.
And we had fun. A lot of people came in. We had a blast, joked, played, had a good time.
Oh, yeah. I like these TeeJay-led episodes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Can I get another one?
You probably will. You did a pretty good job. Pretty good job.
And the whole point of today's subject is look at how far you've come from where you are. And that's kind of the whole premise that I came up with in my head about this episode. At the end of the day, look at where you were, let's say 20 years ago. and look at where you are now, and look how much you've grown, and look how much you've changed, and just appreciate the change, appreciate the growth that you have. Matter of fact, in the comments or in the subject, anywhere that you can type, if you're listening to this on a podcast or you're watching this on YouTube, put in the comments something that's changed about you from where you were to where you are now. And I would like to, maybe we can revisit those and talk about that more.
Oh, that'd be fun. Read some people's comments.
Yeah, and just see, I'm kind of curious about what other people might say, because like I said, it doesn't have to be anything specific, just whatever you feel like you've changed. And even it's just the way I dress is different,
Yeah.
or the way I cook is different, whatever it is, just put it in the comments, and we can revisit this, and we can have your subjects mentioned in this very podcast.
Nice.
So I guess we're ready to wrap this thing up.
Yes, sir. Take it away.
Well, so with all that being said, we'd like to thank you for coming to check out this episode.
Yes, sir.
If you're watching this on YouTube, this podcast is also available on all streaming platforms.
Yes,
and if
sir.
you're on a streaming platform listening to us, we're also available on YouTube where you can watch the video.
Beautiful exchange.
So we want to thank you all. And I forgot how to do the end.
And as always,
Oh, yeah. And as always,
I want to remind you.
I want to remind you all to reset
And what?
and zap.
For the what?